Hi everybody, I want to talk today about how I saved for early retirement stroke semi-retirement. So I have some notes, as I always do, I take my notes. So if you see my head looking down, that's what it's about. The first thing I want to do is take you back a little bit, potted history of Natalie. So in my early 20s, I was very flexible, traveled a lot, did a lot of different things, but didn't really have a core job as such. Not until I was in my very, very late 20s, almost 30, when I got into IT through a graduate training program. My finances at that time were pretty much all over the show. And I had a credit card, I was on very low wage. In fact, when I started that job at 29, I was the lowest paid person in the company. So I know what it's like to live on a low wage. I was living out of my overdraft. I had a credit card, as I say, that was pretty much maxed out every month. And I was just messing about with money. One of the things that started to steady the ship was the fact that I was getting married and I didn't want to be in debt and bring that debt into a marriage. I was also pregnant at the time, and obviously that would come with a lot of expenses. So I started to very slowly, and thanks to my ex-husband as well, who helped get myself out of debt. At that time, I also found Dave Ramsey, and that's what really kind of structured me and how I was going to get out of debt. And I think that is probably one of the biggest things that helped me was reading and starting to act upon Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. Now, I don't agree with every single one in the absolute order as well. I think there always has to be a degree of flexibility with any framework that you start to introduce into your life, but it really did help me. I do have a video, a very old video, I think it's probably about 10 years old, which I am going to put up here or here, I don't know which side it is, about taking you through the 7 baby steps. So I got my emergency fund. I did get into the company pension, which I'll talk about in a second. And I started to try and get out of debt as well. Now, I'm not saying that once I got out of debt, I was always out of debt. That's not true. I went through a divorce. I had to take out a big loan to be able to pay the solicitor fees. And I had to start all over again in my early 40s. So life was not all straight, a straight, wide open road. There was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of starting again. But basically what I was doing from my early 30s was putting money away to pay my future self. Whether it was a lot or a little, it didn't matter. It was the fact that I was consistent from around the age of about 33 to 35, right up until now, where I'm 55, I was putting money away consistently. Most of that was through salary sacrifice with the companies that I was working for, and also putting a little bit of money away from my net pay into the older pensions that I had. And it was maybe as little as £50 a month just to keep it topped up every month. And I was also putting a little bit of money away into some ISAs, but I was never close to maxing out my ISAs every year, not even in a hope of doing that. I also put a little bit of money into premium bonds, and I managed to put a little bit of money, get some money aside for there. The premium bonds to me was always my savings of last resort. So if the house went, if I was rock bottom, that would be the money that I would use to start again. Forgive me, I'm going to turn on my little fan so you'll see my hair go a little bit because it is absolutely roasting and I'm coming out in a bit of a flush and a bit of a heat rash as well. So, and clothes are sticking to me at the moment. So forgive me, I am going to just have the little fan on down here as well. So getting back to all that, and I only ever do these one take wonders, so forgive me. So I was putting money away from my pension, a little bit into savings as well. And as I was earning more money when I moved to a new job or whatever, and I've had some setbacks as well in my career where I went from, you know, an okay wage to a high wage to a low wage to a high wage. So I've been up and down. But the one thing was that my lifestyle remained consistent as well. So I didn't have lifestyle inflation, which meant that as I was going forward, I was able to put more and more money away. The minimum that I was putting away into my pension was 15% salary sacrifice plus whatever my employer would add on top. So that was the rule that I had. 15% would go into my pension every single month, regardless of my salary. And I would learn to live on what was left over. So I still have a mortgage. I still had, I have a credit card as well. So, you know, and I'm not perfect. That's the other thing. This is not some sort of evangelical story, a Damascene conversion to being debt free. No, I've been up and down. Sorry, I've got a itch in the back of my back here. I've been up and down. I've used credit cards still, but my one rule with using either buy now, pay later or a credit card was I had to have the money in my savings to cover it regardless. So I could buy a new washing machine on a credit card by the way, if it was on a credit card, it was always paid off at the end of the month. But if it was on buy now, pay later or something similar, I had to have the money available to pay it off. That was the rule, and it's still a rule. Now that I'm not earning, it doesn't really matter whether I put something on pay in 3 or not, because there's no more income coming in to be able to offset it. So I just have to pay it all off there and then. So what else? Let me just double check. So yes, so apart from Dave Ramsey, what I also did was get on a budget. So I used, in the very early days, YNAB. So YNAB is you need a budget. It's all very web-based and subscription now, but in the old days you could just buy it, and it was much a glorified spreadsheet. I now have my own spreadsheets. I can manipulate them as much as I want, and I've been using a dedicated spreadsheet to track my earnings for at least 4 years now. Like every single thing I spend, I track it. I know how much, therefore, that I am comfortable to live on and what my floor is, because I know what I spend every month. Again, I have my frivolous moments as well. I love nothing more than giving myself a £30 budget and going and seeing how much tat I can buy on AliExpress, you know, or Amazon or something like that. You know, I'm not perfect. You know, I do love a dopamine hit as much as anyone. But now that I'm in this transitional sort of semi-retirement phase, what I've realized is it genuinely is just stuff. And in fact, the more I look around, and yes, thank you for those lovely compliments about my house. This is my living room. This is the one room I have done to the level of where I just love it. So I don't mind that there are things in it that I don't use, that are more decorative than anything. I just love it. But the older I get and the more I look around my house, the more I just feel that possessions are a cognitive load. They're an anchor and a drag. So I choose not to, I love my plants, but I choose not to bring anything into the house unless I know I'm going to need it. I've started little businesses, like little craft businesses, and you buy all the things for it, and I've got a lot of stuff left over. So again, I'm not perfect. So in my early 30s, I'm going to just sort of summarize. In my early 30s, I got involved with Dave Ramsey, his 7 baby steps. I got on a budget with YNAB. I was putting 15% away in retirement. I was getting an emergency fund together. And I was on Money Saving Experts, debt-free and mortgage-free wannabe. In my 40s, I had to start again from zero because I got divorced, and I had to literally start with nothing, buy a house, get a mortgage, I had a loan that I had to be paying out because of the lawyer's fees. I had a loan that I had got out to help my ex-husband's business, and I had to be paying that off. So there was a lot. I was at rock bottom at that point, but I was still saving into my pension, even if I wasn't saving anything else. So the salary sacrifice was still there. I was living on a budget, and so I could be living lean as well. I also found out that I couldn't have any more kids. I couldn't have any more kids during my marriage. So I had one child who was growing up, and I started to put my effort into my career as well. So I was getting some better paid jobs. But again, some of that was taken away from me during the COVID period. I lost my job, my father, and obviously my freedom in the same week. It was a very, very difficult period. And so I had to just get a job, and I managed to get a job that was very much less, about a third of what I had been earning previously. But I got it just because I needed to get a job. So this isn't a rags to riches story. This is very much about how you ebb and flow your finances with, with circumstances. But having some consistency throughout the last 25 years has enabled me to amass a pension that I believe I can live on throughout the bridge years from 55 to 67. I have amassed enough national insurance contributions to get a full state pension as well. I have an emergency fund that will enable me to ride out any market crashes, because I have a system that and a framework that I've created for myself. And the other thing is, I am very, very flexible with the amount that I can spend. I'm a natural conservative spender anyway, so I'm more likely to end up with more money than I am with less in terms of my pension, because I'll always default to that fear of running out of money. So in my 50s now, and I'm 55, I am comfortable spending less. So I've coined it living well on less. I am not so much saving anymore, as I am starting to, in October will be my first, if you watch my last video, and thank you to everybody who's joined the community since then. But I have I managed to keep all my savings going until October this year, where I will have to actually start taking my first pension out. So my first decumulation, which is the scariest thing, because I've been accumulating for the last 25 years. So to summarize, and this was based on a comment that somebody had asked for, how as a female have I saved for retirement? Obviously, I did go part-time, by the way, when my son was first born. And I did things like, I went back sort of like 3 days out of 5, then I went back 4 days in 5, and then 5 days in 4, and whatever. So I was still trying to manage my job around my son and being as flexible as possible. Also, as I say, a few years later, going through the divorce as well. So to summarize, consistency, consistency, consistency. Know what you spend, know what the floor is, so what you absolutely cannot go below. And that doesn't mean, I've got to keep all the Netflix and everything. What do you have to pay every month? Otherwise, things really seriously start to fall apart, and you'll be surprised how much you can actually give up. But once you know your floor, once you know what you spend every month, you've then got a range within which you can be flexible. Put at least 15% of your salary sacrifice, if you can, into your pension. Start saving a little bit into non-pension savings as well. So whether that's a cash ISA or whatever, premium bonds or whatever you choose, I'm not here to dictate. And be consistent over time. And it's never too late to save either. There's a lot of videos out on YouTube about people starting from zero in their 50s. Yes, it means you might have to work a little bit longer, but they're still able to save a substantial amount before they actually reach state pension as well. So don't give up. If you've got any specific questions, I'm more than happy to ask or to answer any of them. But be consistent. Do not inflate your lifestyle to fit your wage. Stay where you are. Obviously give yourself a little bit of flexibility, get on a budget and put money away. Pay your future self first. That's the best advice I could ever give anybody, is pay your future self first. Anyway, thank you for watching, folks. I hope this has been useful, and I look forward to speaking with you in the comments. Bye now.